Did you know that out of the 135 players to win the World Cup between 1990 and 2010, 44 of them went on to become coaches? Only around 6 of them have arguably been successful up to now. Wayne Rooney, one of the best players of his generation, was recently sacked by Birmingham City after only 15 games, and other football legends such as Gerrard, Maradona, Alan Shearer and Roy Keane have struggled when they've went on to coaching. This got me thinking, why is it that some of the greatest players to play the game make terrible coaches?
Sometimes maybe good, sometimes maybe shit.
Are their great careers actually a disadvantage when it comes to coaching? In this video I'll discuss why teams hire former players as coaches skipping the education process, and why management is a lot more than just tactics. I'll also discuss former players not meeting the drive of other managers, and how the position that they played as players can impact their success in management. First of all, why do clubs hire top players even when they may not have much coaching experience? This is something that's common in many sports, not only in football. One reason is that they'll usually be comfortable dealing with the media and the pressure that comes with competing at the top level. Playing football at the top comes with constant pressure and scrutiny, and the manager needs the ability to handle this.
I'm not feeling the pressure, no. You cannot put pressure on me, no chance.
Managers with successful playing careers also immediately gain the respect of players, compared to a manager with little or no playing experience who will have to gain the respect of his players over time. A manager who is a good player will immediately get respect from the dressing room. Many of the players will have watched them on TV as kids and may even have idolised them, although I believe this leads to many good managers not being given an opportunity. You can understand why clubs will often turn to someone with a big name in the game instead of a relatively unknown manager who may be doing well at a smaller club. And this leads to the previous point. How many times have we seen a top player get to the end of their career and very quickly jump from playing to coaching or accepting a job that they weren't ready for? As I've just pointed out, due to their big names, many top players get fast-tracked, especially in the UK. Sometimes getting the dream managerial job is far too early. An example being Frank Lampard accepting the Chelsea job after leading Derby to the playoff final. Although Lampard did do well in his first season getting the club into the top 4 under a transfer ban, he was still very early into his managerial career and would have benefited from a few years developing his skills at a lower level. The same could be said for Gerrard, who accepted the Villa job after leaving Rangers. By skipping the education process, players disregard the fact that management is a completely different profession, and just as they spent years training to become professional footballers, they also need to put the time into learning a completely new role. And although playing experience is an advantage, it doesn't make up for a lack of coaching experience. Pep Guardiola is a good example. When his playing career ended, he knew he wanted to become a coach, so he took a year out to learn about management and to meet up with his former coaches such as Marcelo Bielsa, who pressed him about why he wanted to become a coach. Despite all the negatives that they were both aware of in the game, he developed his philosophy coaching the B teams at Barca before moving to the senior team. Well, let's take Ange Postecoglou. He had to retire at 27 due to an injury. Before he got the coaching job at Tottenham, he had already been coaching for over 20 years. This included teams in Australia, Japan and Scotland, winning trophies along the way. And although this was his first job in a top 5 league in Europe, he had vast coaching experience and was instantly able to mould the team in his image and play the way he wanted. Let's compare this to coaches such as Lampard, Gary Neville and Steven Gerrard, got high profile jobs when they had very little experience in the management. Having said this, there has been coaches who have succeeded at the top with almost no coaching experience. Franz Beckenbauer retired in 1983 and was appointed the German national team coach very next year, and led Germany to the World Cup final in 1984 in his first job. Rudi Völler and Jurgen Klinsmann also achieved success with the German national team despite almost no coaching experience. When it comes to being a manager at the top level, it's much more about managing personalities and getting the most out of players than it is about developing their game. Julian Nagelsmann once said that 30% of coaching is tactics, 70% social competence. The best coaches in the world aren't those who set their teams up best or have the greatest formations. It's the coaches who can connect with their players and get the most out of every individual by recognising their strengths and their weaknesses. Coaching in many ways is like being a teacher. And as the saying goes, the best students don't make the best teachers. For instance, teachers who found learning easy and rarely got confused won't be as empathetic or understanding as a teacher who wasn't the best student and knows the struggle of being confused. They'll be less likely to make assumptions about how easy a concept will be to grasp. This is likewise in coaching. Great players will most likely be coaching players who are inferior to them, and when they step into management, many of them get frustrated when their players aren't able to do things that they found simple. A coach who wasn't a top player is more likely to identify with their players, and they can find different ways to get the best out of them. I feel there's a lot of managers who are good coaches but bad man managers, such as Erik ten Hag, who seems to fall out with his players, as we've seen with Ronaldo, Sancho, Varane and Noah Lang at Ajax. A perfect example of this is Roy Keane, great player and captain, but as we've seen from his time as a pundit, he doesn't seem like he would have the best man management skills.
But if you think Fred and McTominay and Matic in midfield will get Man United back to the heights of winning league titles, then you're living in cuckoo land.
One of his players once described his man management skills as 0 out of 100.
The problem with Roy Keane when you come to Aston Villa, he couldn't understand how we weren't as good as the players that he played with. His man management, I'd say, would be 0 out of 100.
Doesn't matter how good a manager is tactically, if they aren't able to earn the trust and respect of their players, they won't succeed. Ancelotti, Mourinho and Klopp, all great examples of this. They're known for having great relationships with their players. This makes their players want to try harder for the manager. Ibrahimovic once said he was willing to die for Mourinho on the pitch. As a manager, if you can get your players playing with this attitude, you give yourself a great chance for success. When Pep Guardiola visited his mentor Marcelo Bielsa during his year off after retiring, Bielsa asked him, "Why do you want to return to that environment and manage despite all the garbage and dishonesty in football? Do you like blood so much?" Guardiola replied, "I need that blood." Despite all the success and trophies he had won, Guardiola still felt he had unfinished business in football. This is uncommon for top players. They're usually content and done with the game. They may continue coaching or become pundits because it's a natural next step, but this puts them at a disadvantage compared to coaches who weren't as successful as players, who use coaching as a way to fulfill their unfinished business in the game. Many of the greatest managers had their careers cut short due to injury or never made it to the level they wanted to as players. Others never won the trophies they wanted to. This leaves a void which can only be filled by achieving success in management, which is the closest thing they have to playing. Let's take Thomas Tuchel and Julian Nagelsmann, two top coaches in football today. They both had to retire from football in their early 20s. Despite how unfortunate this is, it gave them great motivation to achieve success in coaching, even though they couldn't play anymore. They also get the advantage of being able to start their coaching career earlier, can develop away from the spotlight. Compared to players pre-1990, top players today are usually financially secure after retiring and never need to work again. This removes the financial incentive that other coaches with lesser or no playing careers have. Let's compare Frank Lampard and Will Still, the young manager of Stade Rennes in France. Which of the two is more likely to leave their comfort zone or learn a new language to coach in a different country? Probably Will Still. He's also probably more likely to have the support of his family to pursue his coaching career, and they'll be willing to follow him to different countries if he was to get a job offer. Former top players like Lampard will have been doing this for their whole playing careers, and their families won't be willing to move locations every few years, and they won't find this appealing. This will lead to these coaches not accepting certain jobs, even though it would benefit their coaching career. A study carried out by CIES found that out of all the managers who played football professionally, 42% of them were midfielders and 34% were defenders. This shows that midfielders are overrepresented when it comes to management, considering only around 38% of current players are midfielders. A lot of the best managers today were midfielders such as Guardiola, Ancelotti, Conte and Simeone. When you consider the responsibility that midfielders have, it makes sense why they make the best coaches compared to forwards, for example. Pep Guardiola spoke about this when asked about why defensive midfielders make good coaches. Playing in midfield forces you to read the game by anticipating moves and knowing when to speed up and slow down the game. This improves understanding of the game, and when players like this go into coaching, it helps them become better tacticians. Hristo Stoichkov was a Hungarian striker who won the Ballon d'Or and played for one of the best Barcelona teams. He went into management after retiring and famously said he doesn't believe in tactics. He went on to have a great managerial career. Well, of course he didn't, but this is definitely a quote you would expect from a manager who played as a striker. Midfielders and defenders are also constantly in communication with their teammates while playing. They are essentially coaches on the field. Midfielders need to have a good understanding of the players around them so they know the types of passes to play and how to change their game to get the best out of their teammates. Now you can see how this translates well to management compared to attackers who are more individualistic and focus more on their own games. As we can see, having a great career has its pros and cons. Although many great players have succeeded in management, far more have failed. This shows that being a good player doesn't mean they'll be successful in coaching or have superior football knowledge, as we can see with pundits who have tried coaching. Now, although 2/3 of coaches in the top 5 leagues today have played football professionally, we're seeing a rise in the amount of coaches without a playing background. Despite the disadvantage of no playing career, these coaches have the advantage of starting their careers earlier and less pressure at the beginning of their careers. I feel that top players moving into coaching need to treat it as a completely new profession, put in the time to develop their social skills and be content with spending a few years developing their game in the youth leagues or in the lower leagues of football. Now, thanks for watching. If you got this far, please hit the like button and subscribe if you're interested in more football content from me, and also comment your thoughts on this topic, as I'll be interested to know what other people think.